Hey you guys, and welcome to a brand new episode of BoisChat. Today, as always, I'm accompanied by my friends Dan Mag, or Daniel Magne, and Andres Pereira. So today we have a pretty packed episode. So we're going to start with the fact that a filmmaker claims that Capcom used his creature designs in Resident Evil Village. Resident Evil Village was released, I think, last week, and it's making waves to being a really fun Resident Evil game. Pere doesn't want to know anything about the story or anything because he's a huge Resident Evil fan. But I know for a fact that Daniel knows stuff about the game already.
Because I already watched the whole thing.
That's what I know. So we have a character that is essentially a Big Daddy from Bioshock with a propeller on its head. Director, let me see. Director Richard Rapforst, who directed a found footage horror flick in 2013 called Frankensteins Army, shared some comparison images on its LinkedIn page between the monster from his movie and the one that appeared in Village. These, of course, unraveled a bunch of comparisons between different monsters that appear in Resident Evil Village, all the way to other movies and of the genre, etc. So, seeing this tweet that shows the monster and the one that we have on Resident Evil side by side, whoa!
It's funny.
I can't defend Capcom at all because they look identical.
Well, just at least the propeller guy. When I saw the propeller, because I saw the propeller guy before I saw the news about this guy who made like Frankenstein's Army, and I thought the propeller guy was funny because it's like that. It's like a huge zombie with like with a propeller on his head.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, that's convenient, I guess. And then I saw like this guy's movie. He did the comparison like shot to shot, because he says that like I don't want to spoil anything for Barrett, but it's basically like a part on the game when you get a lot of like monsters, and he's saying that they copied almost all of my monsters, which I don't agree with all of them. I do agree with the propeller guy. The propeller guy is just like shot to shot. It's the same thing.
But is he a boss? Is he like?
It's kind of like a mini boss,
Okay.
but it's notable. It's notable. Like you see it. You're like walking around, and you're like it because it's a boss. You kind of hear him first, and then you see a propeller on somebody's head, and then I thought that like a designer on Capcom, he was like, I don't know, man. I already did a spider. I did a plant. I don't know, a propeller, I guess. So whatever. I just want to go home. And then when I saw what you sent me about the Frankenstein's Army, I was like, damn, this is bad. Like this is really bad because I love Resident Evil, and I think that Resident Evil has like the most unique monsters, if we can call it like that in gaming.
Yeah, you
Like
have
monsters
Nemesis. You have.
yes, Nemesis.
How's it
You
called? The
have
guy from the second game, Parrot, the one that
Mr. X.
you have Mr.
Mr.
X.
You have the liquors.
Remember the shark thing that lived in the lake in the fourth game? That if you
Yeah.
shot the water, he would come out and eat you.
Wait, but wasn't he like a catfish? I think he was.
Yeah, it was a catfish. It was a catfish.
It was a giant fish that you would harpoon.
So
I mean, how like they have been really original, and then I don't know where they got out with this. Like it feels bad. I actually don't like it because like I saw Resident Evil 8, and I want to play it, and I think it was a really really good game. But it's kind of like, I don't want to say cringy, but like kind of like bad whenever you know that a character design came from something that already existed.
and they never credited the other person. What brings my piss to a boil is actually the fact that Mr. Raffors said that at first he was angry, then he was proud, but now seeing that how he was ripped off completely and Capcom never even contacted him. If that's the case, what I'm saying is if that's the case, and now he feels sad because they use his design into a game without even crediting him.
It is.
And I totally agree with him. I totally agree with the sentiment.
I want to watch Frankenstein's Army now, just to make him feel better.
Yeah, but it's a really original design. Having a zombie with a propeller in its head is something that it's going to stick out to you during your game time.
I mean, it is. I mean, that's the thing. If he would have been like, Capcom contacted him and say like, "Hey, we love your Frankenstein guy. Can we use it as a zombie?" I think it would have been really cool. Kind of
Yeah.
Right.
like it would be kind of like acknowledging originality, in a sense.
And this is
But
completely the opposite.
yeah, this is just like I used it and like I don't know because I haven't seen any of the forums if people say like, "Oh my god, this monster is so cool" or whatever. But I would understand if you're playing a game and then you're like, "Wait, what? This guy is mine," and they were like, "Why? Why is mine?" Because I did something so ridiculous as a propeller Frankenstein, and they did a propeller zombie. Okay, I know it's mine, and
Yeah,
I mean
it's
it's sad.
obvious. It's really obvious.
I feel sad both for the guy because I think that would really bum me up to know that somebody used my design without like my consent or at least asked me for it. And then I feel really bad about Capcom because I'm like, you made some of the most awesome looking monsters in gaming, and now out of nowhere, you are just like copying from a movie, which I think, why? Like, how long has Resident Evil been on the market? Like 1996,
They were at
was
the
it?
start of the. They were spearheading the PlayStation library. They were so legendary. They created a variety of content. And they were so original in the fact that how they handled the survival horror thing. Remember that, Dan, when we did a video for Generalized on the Game Boys, where we found out that there were other games that started the survival
Yeah.
horror. When you had House of the Dead, it was House of the Dead. No, Alone in the Dark. Alone in the
Alone
Dark.
in the Dark, first one.
And when they when they like did all the so Resident Evil has always like spearheading stuff when it came to survival horror, or all the way to Resident Evil 4. And now seeing that they're essentially stealing, because that's the thing, I cannot justify a propeller headed zombie that looks almost exactly to a propeller Frankenstein. Like, it makes absolutely no sense because, surprise, surprise, Frankenstein's monster is a zombie too. It's a reanimated thing. So I don't know. I don't have any I don't have any more to add for this. But I'm going to go into a more. But we're going to jump into a different news, to a different story, which is going to be something that Perry can help us out a little better. Blizzard, according to Nintendo Life, Blizzard is to showcase a new PvP Overwatch map, or at least many of them, in the special 5th anniversary livestream. Now, I want to ask, why is this like really important? It was held in a developer in a Reddit AMA on May. Okay, it was announced pretty soon, and there's going to be a Reddit AMA on the Overwatch subreddit on the 24th of May. Why is it so important?
Well, with the upcoming, or well, we don't really know when it's releasing, but let's say upcoming release of Overwatch 2, there's a ton of new, let's say, sneak peeks of maps,
Okay.
and people are getting really hyped. They really do, because with the inclusion of PvE maps, story lores, etc., and counting with the PvP content being both available to Overwatch 2 players and Overwatch 1 players, people are really hyped, even if they're not buying Overwatch 2, right? So things like Rio de Janeiro, Toronto, Gothenburg, Monte Carlo, India, Rome, New York, that were seen on November 1st, 2019 and 19th of February 2021, those were really good designs.
They
So
look
people are,
fantastic. They look really good.
yeah, people are
Wait,
really, really getting hyped over it.
wait, I got a question for this. Like, are those new maps, like, are those maps planned for Overwatch 1, or are we going to have like maps in Overwatch 1 and then there were like and these are the other maps for Overwatch 2?
So the ones I mentioned, I think they're planned to release with Overwatch 2. So the thing is, Overwatch 2 will be, let's say, the PvE exclusive content will be in Overwatch 2, but Overwatch 2 and Overwatch 1 will share the same PvP content.
That's
Oh.
right.
Oh, okay. Because I remember that I heard that if you had Overwatch 1, then you can play the Overwatch 2 multiplayer, like the PvP for free, if I'm not
Right.
wrong. And then you need to buy what you need to buy is the story mode.
Right.
Yes.
Which whenever I heard you have to buy the story mode, I just imagined EA was like, dude, that's like my thing. Okay, you cannot do that.
I want to ask something because I want to know. Okay, so because Pera and I play Genshin Impact, so we already we're kind of accustomed of getting the story bits fed to us by small doses. Do you think Overwatch 2 story mode is something that is going to come out in fall? Or do you think it's something that is going to be releasing periodically?
I think it will be a more periodic thing, because if they want to prolong the game overall, they would like to, get out more story, or at least some prequels, before Overwatch or after or in between. It's more like their thing with all these events they've been doing in Overwatch 1.
Yeah, like well, the one that I don't remember the name. The one that where you were Torbjorn, Reinhardt, Tracer, and Mercy was fantastic. That was a
That
hell of
was
an update.
the Defense of London.
Yes.
Hmm.
But I forgot the enemy because it wasn't the Omnics. Well, it was an Omnic, like an Omnic terrorist group, but I forgot the name.
I believe
Sector
it's Sector Zero, I believe
Sector
it was.
Zero. Dude,
Yeah,
that map was fantastic.
I like that one. I do like that one, and I liked it that it was like a prequel, like you see Overwatch being Overwatch, and I thought that was pretty cool.
I loved it.
Because after that we got the seasonal events, like for example the castle of Frankenstein, but it was Dirk. How was it?
Junker Stain. That is
Junker.
Understand
Doctor.
for you.
Joker's. I love that one because it really felt like a zombie invasion. But I remember when they did. I always wanted to know more about Blackwatch, which, if like people doesn't know, Blackwatch was like the black section of Overwatch that was led by
Assassins,
by
hitmen, mercenaries.
yeah, but like the team was Genji, McCree, Moira. I'm thinking
Well, obviously Reaper.
Reaper, and
Nope, those were.
no
I'm
wait,
pretty sure those were it. At least
yeah,
playable
and
characters that were
yeah,
in
in
there.
the game mode, and then I remember that I was like, oh, this looks so cool because I always wanted to see about Blackwatch because they were like the bad guy, like kind of like the bad guys, and I remember I saw the mission, like I played the mission, and I was like, so the point of this is that Ripper is a dick. That's the whole thing. Like he just killed a guy, and we have to escape. And I was like, But then after that, I totally forgot that Overwatch has like some comics, kind of like a comic
Yeah.
series that follows up on those events. And I mean, if they come out with the game Overwatch 2, because it's a continuation of Overwatch,
Yeah.
basically saying, hey, we need you back again. Uh, I would like it if they would do like a full-on sequel, like this is all the story, and then on the middle of the seasons we can get some prequel stuff. Like here's an idea for a
Okay,
prequel that I would
I
think
think I
it would
follow
be.
you what you want. You want like they
Yeah,
give you the full story like from start to finish, and then you get specific events highlighted for you to play anytime you want.
like season. It could be seasonal, and then it could be remain as an arcade version maybe. But here's the thing: there is one in particular that I was always thinking about. Like, I would say this would be so good. Uh, if they would do like a story mission, but it wouldn't be PVE, it would be PvPE, in which you had the fall of Overwatch. So basically, you have one guy playing Soldier 76 and one guy playing Reaper, both sides, both teams, and they get the clash in which they killed each other. Um, I will love that. That's the one that I want to see like fleshed out, like the
But
separation
the
between them.
thing is that something that we have to give praise to Overwatch of what they do is that they handle story pretty well, and most of things are realistic. And I think that and Pere can actually correct me if I'm wrong. I think Reaper and Soldier 76, both of them, well, Jack Morrison and Gabriel Regis, they fought alone, and that's what like the break of Overwatch was that Blackwatch was essentially assassinated because many of the members of Blackwatch started serving Overwatch instead. That's why Genji and McCree are seen on award ceremonies and everything. Like the fall of Overwatch was like an agreement inside. Like the fight was so fierce that I think it was the main headquarters of Overwatch caved into itself,
Right.
and everyone thought that both Reaper and Jack Morrison were dead, and
Until they weren't.
until they weren't, because then Soldier appeared in Mexico, and Reaper became part of Talon, a new organization that not only wanted to destroy Omnix, but they also wanted to push their own criminal agenda. And all under the power of Doomfist, the guy that absolutely is not based on Terry Crews, but has the voice of Denzel Washington. So, jumping from Overwatch into something else, we're going to talk about retro for a moment, okay? I want to ask all of you, Danielle, when was the first time that you held a game controller? How old were you?
Game Boy. No, not a controller, but a Game Boy Color.
Okay,
I was 4.
you were 4.
Yeah, I was 4, and my first game was Pokemon Silver. That was
Okay,
my first game ever.
Pere, what about you? First time you held a
Ab-
controller?
About 5 or 6, and yellow, Pokemon Yellow.
Okay, my case was between 3 or 4 years old. It was a Super Nintendo controller, and I played Yoshi's Island. So to all of us, what's the point where we will draw the line of which is a retro console and where we go forward it's a modern console? To me, used to be that the generation of the Sega Saturn, PlayStation 1, and N64 was like the cap. It was this is where retro is retro. What
I
do you
would
guys think?
say I would say that anything before PlayStation 1 is retro, and then after is modern.
So you consider PlayStation 1 retro?
Yeah, a
Okay.
little bit.
And you, Andres?
Yeah, it sounds like a good band. Yeah, I'd
What?
agree.
Well, we are wrong. According to Game Center CX, a legendary gameplay let's play channel on Japan, they usually cover retro stuff, and they just announced that the next games that they're going to play are from the GameCube, PlayStation 2, and Game Boy era, which means that we are old. We are officially retro.
PlayStation 2, I can't. I still feel like it's still so playable. I mean, if I'm not wrong, I think PlayStation 2 was one of the consoles with like the biggest library of games uh around the world. And like I said, I can understand PlayStation 1 because I do consider that like an antique, a good antique.
Yeah.
But that's like saying like the Wii is so freaking old, and it's not. Like I don't feel like I don't. I can understand that they're really old. They are, and or if you say PlayStation 2 and you're like, well, we're on the PlayStation 5 and they change it every 4 years, like 4 to 5 years, you can say, yeah, it's old, but it's not like retro. It's not like I'm gonna put my like a PlayStation 1 next to a Pac-Man machine and I'll say like, oh yeah, you're the same now.
I want to believe that this is like flattering the PlayStation 2, GameCube, and Game Boy, like saying that they became classics. Maybe
That's
it's
one way to see it.
maybe it's that because retro is never. I've never used the word retro to say old. I always say retro that it's classic, like it has a feeling of something that came before. For example, when you grab a game that say that is retro feeling, Katana Zero, for example, that has almost this 64 32-bit aesthetic of pixel art that gives you a vibe of something that you don't quite remember, or something like Gato Roboto from Devolver Digital that they go for this Game Boy Color era of black and white.
Like Shovel Knight.
Or Shovel Knight, you see, like retro feeling. I think it's always flattering because it gives us something good. Now, now that we brought retro out of the way, do you guys have a game, a franchise that came out on a specific console that never saw the light of day ever again?
Right.
Like, I'm saying,
Well,
imagine
okay.
that you have a game that you really like on the PlayStation 2 or the PlayStation 3 for that matter, or even the Super Nintendo, and they never got a sequel or they never came out of that closed ecosystem. Do you have one of those?
The only one that comes to my mind, and not so much because I know that it has a PS. It was from the PS1, and I know that it has a PS2 sequel that wasn't so good. It was Klonoa,
Okay.
uh, which was basically a game of a kind of like a bunny, yeah, like an
Yeah, yeah.
anthropomorphic bunny, and he had a ghost on a ring. And the first one was so freaking good. It was so freaking good and so difficult. And I remember I played it and I was waiting so long for the second one and it never came out in PlayStation 1. And then in PlayStation 2, the developer said like, oh yeah, we want to go back to the old days, so we're gonna make Klonoa 2. And in my opinion, it sucked so bad.
That was created by
Uh,
Namco, I think. And then a
yeah,
millennia years later, they released a Wii version of the PlayStation 1. Like it was like a remaster. What about
I
you,
don't
Parrot?
know.
Do you have one for that matter?
Ooh. To be honest, not that I remember of. I've always been let's how do you say it?
Blessed
Like a
by player.
mainstream kind of guy, yeah. So it always delivers most of the time.
Okay,
The thing is
so
also like these days you already have a lot of companies that are like either redoing or like getting sequels for really old games.
well,
So
you should
it's
look
hard to
you
find
should
one.
look at the mad lads behind Nintendo Japan that re-released two games fully remastered from 1989 and 98 with the Famicom Detective Club. Okay, a small story bit about these games. These were two point-and-click text games that appeared way back in the Famicom disk drive, which was actually an add-on for the Japanese NES, which had like a little bit of better graphics, better processing, like, and most OG NES games, Super Mario Bros. 3, Legend of Zelda, all of that, also came out again on the disk drive. These discs were essentially huge floppy disks that were really sturdy, and they also had a way of rewrite what games were in a single cartridge. You could go to these kiosks and change the game for a fee, and that was actually pretty cool. It was really revolutionary. It never came to the United States, and that means that we never experienced that. But these two games were legendary because they were essentially the predecessors of a franchise that Perry likes very much, and they were predecessors to the Phoenix Wright, Professor Layton games that had a lot of investigation, reading, and everything. Even Doki Doki Literature Club is essentially a granddaughter of these type of games, and they were re-released, and people are raving about how good they were. The two games were I think were, let me say the name, The Missing Heir and The Girl Who Stands Behind, all with new artwork, better, all the dialogue has been translated beautifully. Like, it became fantastic. So what I'm trying to say with this story is the fact that if you ever feel like a game is never coming out, maybe you're in for some luck. If we can get something like Famicom Detective Club back after over 40 years of waiting, I think we can get something new for a while. I saw a small story, a small article, where Sega apparently acknowledged that it's sitting in a pile of fantastic games. Jet Set Radio, Skies of Arcadia, Panzer Dragoon, Phantasy Star. Like, they have a variety of games that a lot of people want to play. So I like the idea of really old games getting a fresh coat of paint and going out of the door. What are your thoughts on on that specifically?
I like it. You said Skies of Arcadia, and I was like, oh my god, if they made like a remake of that, that would be so freaking cool because that game was so awesome. I mean, I don't understand how that game didn't get a sequel because you didn't end it in a cliffhanger, but like it's kind of like a Dragon Quest chemistry in which you get new stories.
Yeah.
And I thought like Skies of Arcadia was so cool because I'll never forget how the guy that sold it to me sold it on the store because I said, "What is this?" And he's like, "It's pirates in the sky." And I was like, "You got me." Like, that's it. That's all I need.
That's all you
And
need.
and it was a really good game, and I was really sad to see that it never got like a continuation. So yeah, I'm really excited to see, but as long as they don't change the core mechanics of the game, so I would feel like I'm playing the same game, but it looks way prettier.
Sure.
That's how I would like it.
I actually really like that of having essentially the same game, but like better looking. I'm always
Like
down for that.
what Nintendo did with Final Fantasy IV, I think it was the one with Cecil. It was the same game, but it was 3D, and it looked
Yeah.
wetter. It looked prettier. So I kind of like that.
And now we are going to do a small rundown of what has transpired between Epic and Apple. So I'm going to tell you all the three stories, and then we are able to talk for the remainder of the episode, okay? So, number one is the fact that Epic wanted Sony's PlayStation PC games to compete with Steam. That's the first one. Number 2 is that Apple needs to show that iOS allows competition while justifying their lockdown of access of everything. And the third one is that Epic fights Apple in court by playing Candy Crush. This last one needs a little bit of explanation, and is the fact that they started using many of the most popular games on the App Store as points of comparison to the fact that they only go, and all the microtransactions go through the App Store every single time. So, what do you gather of all of these 3 articles that I just said?
We'll start with the last one, thinking that Apple came out with like, okay, so you know what? You're gonna 1v1 me on Fruit Ninja right now, dude. It's on. And then like, I just imagine the jury like, ooh, it's about to go down, dude. That's the first thing I go through the whole thing. And if I go in a more serious note, I think that whenever we talked about the first time, like when they were going to court,
Yeah.
I think that Apple had it really against them because they do tend to have a huge controversy around the gaming world, not only on Fortnite but in a lot of things. And I'm not surprised. I really am not surprised that they are playing really defensive right now. Well, I mean, they are the defense, but they are playing like a little bit not desperate, but kind of like nervous around the whole situation because it's bigger, way bigger than just saying, "Hey, you took my game out of your system." I think it's way bigger than that. It's touching on the base of Apple gaming, which I think is called Apple Arcade.
Yeah.
And it's, I think it's the result of creating a department, because you're not obligated to create a gaming department. You're not, if you don't want to. It's totally fine. But this is the problem whenever you do, and you're not taking good care of it. Like you're not giving it a serious thought. Then you have these kinds of problems. I think I'll leave my note on that.
The other games that do have a different store aside from Apple are PUBG and Roblox. Like those are the only 2 that don't necessarily go through the App Store in order to work, which to me at least is not good enough for that. Now, for the second article that I read, which was the one that they need to that they allow competition, they reference an app, somewhat like a social media that is called Game Club. That they say that they say that it's a direct competitor to Apple Arcade, to which the CEO of that organization said that it was absolute bullshit. That it was absurd beyond measure, because Game Club operates under the App Store, and the exclusive license that they have are under the App Store. They're working essentially for them. They're not a competition
So the competitor is someone restricted.
to that specific ecosystem. It makes no sense. And when The Verge contacted the business development VP, which his name is Eli Hodap, he replied the email with the phrase, "Are you serious?"
I mean, it's kind of like it's kind of like if Coke were saying like, "Oh, I do have competition between myself. You have Coke and Diet Coke," and it's like it's the same thing.
It's the same guy, but with a mustache.
It's the same guy with a mustache. It's like, yes, I'm a competition, and then the mustache drops, like in the middle of court.
There have been like really good defensive moves by Apple, but this is, how do you defend with this? It makes no sense. And finally, we have the first one, which is the fact that Epic wanted Sony's PlayStation games on PC to compete with Steam. Remember when I said last week's episode that there's a huge possibility that we get exclusive games from other platforms through Epic,
Yeah.
excluding Xbox. But I'm pretty sure we're going to see Sony and Nintendo games eventually on PC market, and that's going to be through Epic Store. And these actually, and look at something. Sony later allowed games like Horizon Zero Dawn to come to Steam, and they came into both Steam and Epic. But imagine if they got, for example, imagine they got Horizon Zero Dawn first. It would have been amazing because it was a PlayStation game that came on Epic. Like, Epic is allowing PC players to actually experience something like The Last of Us, something like Spider-Man. Imagine how great that would be. And Epic is still working on having more exclusives. I think the game Ruined King from League of Legends is going to come to Epic, not Steam, Epic. So yeah, like there's a lot to unpack in the future for Epic and exclusive. And finally, we have two last stories to cover. We still have like 5 minutes before the episode ends. So first of all, a Google Stadia developer said to GameIndustry.biz that Google says that Stadia is fine and nothing's wrong.
He sounds like the dictator of a third world country. They're like, oh, we're good. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I like whenever you say that to me, you send me the news. The first thing I saw is like that meme with a dog with the house on fire, and
That
he's
says
saying
that
like,
this is fine.
This is
This
fine.
is good. Don't worry, this is good. I mean, he kind of has to, because if I'm not wrong, that was like the marketing director. And I mean, when you're the marketing director, you cannot go and say like, "Oh, dude, it's so freaking bad. Like, we have people
Yeah.
killing each other on the offices." They have to
No.
come out and say, "We're good. We're doing good." And I love the fact that the guy. I gotta give props to the guy that did this article, because he said as soon as I talked to him, I knew that nothing was fine. I mean, Stadia has lawsuits. Stadia has server issues. Stadia doesn't have a huge library of games, and okay, this is the best part. He says, "Don't worry, we're fine. We added a search bar on the Stadia, and we also added Resident Evil 7." As in, oh my God,
That's all we
this is
need.
fixed.
They surely will save us.
It's basically like he says like, and don't worry, because we have big news. For in 2 years, you're going to be able to play Genshin Impact on Stadia, and you're like, oh my God, finally! I just have to wait 2 years to play Stadia to play Genshin in my Stadia. I mean, it's funny, but I understand the guy. I can feel the pain of the guy, because he has to say it's fine. He has to say it's good.
He
Could
said
have said,
something about like they got 100 new games from during 2021, but they're not getting exclusives, and the ones that they get are attainable elsewhere. Like
wait,
they're
I gotta.
not, no, they're not attainable elsewhere. They are not service sellers. For example, people bought HBO because they wanted to see Game of Thrones. That was a service seller. There were people that wanted to see Stranger Things. That's a service seller. In this case, they don't have that. They don't have like this amazing product that justifies spending money on an experimental service. Because let's face it, it is an experimental service. So,
I gotta correct you. I gotta correct you really quick, because Google does have they do have their own standalone game, which is whenever you lost internet, is the dinosaur race. That's original of Google. Okay, that saved my life whenever I didn't have internet. So You gotta give props to the guy. They need to like remake it and make it like a rebrand with colors. I would totally buy that game, no problem.
So the thing is, they're having problems because they almost spent all the budget getting
A bunch of
AAA games.
licenses.
Right, so they have server issues they cannot fix because they have money problems because they bought the games. So no one wants to buy Stadia because they have bad servers or bad services. So there's no way to, fill the hole they wasted on all those games.
Yeah. So
Like, just imagine that in a year they would be like, don't worry, now you can play Cyberpunk, the first ever release, like day one edition. You'll be like, oh my god. I just imagine them releasing Cyberpunk and they'll be like, and don't worry, it has all the bugs that we had in day one. And you'll be like, oh man.
the best
that
way
is
to experience
retro.
Cyberpunk, day one.
Like, oh my god, that is retro.
Well, this is the end of the episode. Thank you all you guys for watching. If you want to see more of our content, be sure to stick to us every single week. And we will see you guys pretty soon. Take care.
I